All right, so continuing from this point where we've clicked and dragged the data flow task into our workspace, we're going to edit this data flow task. Now, we mentioned earlier that we're going to be moving a lot of our data tables or our data from our accounting database into our data warehouse. Now, the first thing that we want to be able to pay attention to is which table we're going to actually load in first. So let's go back and take a look at this database diagram. And one of the things that we really need to pay attention to when we load a database, we need to load tables from the outside in towards the fact table. Okay, so if this is the center, and you can see through the hierarchy, here's one hierarchy and here's another hierarchy, we want to load those outside tables first. All right, now here's another hierarchy on the other side, and so in this we want to load this table before we load this table and then later this table. And the reason for this has to do with primary key and foreign key relationships. So take, for example, in this table here, there's only one primary key. There is no foreign key in this particular table. And a foreign key relationship says that if it exists here, that it must also exist in the following database. So if I were to load data into this database, the subtype, and then I load a foreign key value, the integration services is going to go back to the product type table over here and say, hey, does this foreign key exist over here? And if there is no data to confirm that in the product type, you're going to get an error. So if you load here, it's going to come down here and look, and if it's not existent, then we get that error. Okay. So in order to solve that, right, we solve this we enter data into this first, this second, and this third. Now, I also want to make sure that we're not confused. We can load data into this table, and then this table, and this table, this table, and this table if we choose to. The most important thing is to respect the potential for errors to occur based on your load sequence. So for example, your first table to load could be the DIM batch table. All right. But what we're going to focus on today is we're going to focus on this hierarchy. We're going to start with the DIM product type because it's the simplest one to load given our current data, and then we'll follow through in more details with the other tables because they get more complex. All right, so in this data flow task, I want to rename this one. So I'm going to right click on it and I want to rename it, and I want to say load, I don't need caps, and I'm going to say product type. Okay, and this is, I'm going to load the product type table. So I can double click on it and I will be brought directly into the data flow tab. Now, if you notice up here in the upper left, here is the data flow, and if I choose to, I can just select on control flow and it brings me back to this this workspace. Okay. By the way, I always do recommend to save your work. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit save, and then it will make sure that everything you've done to this time is correct. So I'm going to go back to the data load, and if you also notice there's a little arrow here on the right, and if you click it down, you'll see that you are looking at what types of data control flow tasks. There's only one control flow task, and it's load product type, so we're going to work on that. All right. Now once we're in this environment, you'll notice that the toolbox on the left actually changes. What we want to focus on is not going to be in the common, but we're going to look at other sources and other destinations. The one that we're going to be working with primarily is the Ole Database Source, and then also the Ole Database Destination. So what we're going to do first is we're going to say, all right, we're going to click and drag an Ole Database Source into our workspace. All right. What I want to do is I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call this the Pti Accounting Database. All right. And then I want to click and drag an OLEB database destination. I want to rename this, and I will call this the Pti Data Warehouse. And what I want in this particular exercise is I want the data to flow from the accounting database to the data warehouse. Okay. Now, if you'll notice that there's these red X's, right? And that says that we have not configured these modules correctly. So let's get into configuring those properly. Let's start on the Pti accounting database. Double click on this module. Okay. You'll notice on the left-hand side there are some options. One of them is the connection manager. And this is where we start. And right here we don't have any connections, so this field is blank. So we're going to select on new, and we're going to create a new connection. All right. Now, if you have other connections, they may show up here, but for now I have none, so I'm going to create a new one. Now, I want to connect to the accounting database that is in my data that we've set up earlier, and to access that, I'm just going to go to CIS3060.its.appstate.edu, and I was in CIS00. Of course, you would use your instance number. Okay. Once you do that, you can hit the down arrow, and your databases should show up. If they don't show up, double check the way that you type the server name. There could be an error there which could be preventing your databases from showing up. The one that I want for my source is going to be the Pti accounting database. So I'm going to select on this. I want to test the connection. It says the connection succeeded, so I know it's good. I'll hit OK. OK. And now I can see here that I have that database connected. I'm going to hit OK one more time. And since I'm loading data from the product type table, right, I'm going to select on this drop down here, and I want to load that specific table. Now, until we actually have the database connection here, we couldn't do that. Now that it is, we can do the drop down, and I can go product types. Okay. Now, what's really cool about this a little dialog is we can preview the data, select on it, and we can see that there is some data in that particular table. Also, we can go to the columns, and we can see here that there is the external column and the output column. And what this really is saying is that integration services is going to read this column name, and it's going to output this column name. And you notice they match, and they should. If there's a case where you want to rename them, whatnot, you can do that here. We're not going to worry about that. And also, we're not going to have any kind of error output concerns today, so we're just going to leave that alone. I'll hit OK. You notice the red X goes away. We need to do the same thing for the Pti Data Warehouse. One note, you should see here at the bottom that accounting database has been added to your connection managers here. Okay. All right. Double click on Pti Data Warehouse. I keep it. All right. Now we already have the Pti accounting database set up, but when we select the drop down menu, there is no data warehouse. So we're going to select the new. The server is the same, CIS-analytics.its.appstate.edu. CIS00. Do the drop down, and this time I'm going to select on the data warehouse. I'm going to run a test. Successful, hit OK. OK. And now I can see that now I have two databases connected. This one, or this is a database connection manager, right? So in reality, these are my two connections that I have right now. I hit OK. Since this is a destination, now we have to consider that this is the table that we're going to load into. And you notice there's a little bit of information that is below it. We're going to keep those at default. But the table that we want to load into is dimension product type. Right. So we can look to see if there's data in there right now, and there is data, right? So this could be a problem when we load data in, and we'll fix that here shortly. Let's check the mappings, and then we notice that, everything is lining up. Product type code to product type code, product type name to product type name. That's what we want. All right. And notice once this is done, we have our database connection made and the red X is gone. Okay. What we have to do now is, first of all, let's save all of our work. And we have to fix the data warehouse to make sure that there is no data in it. All right. So before we do that, I'm going to pause right here and then we'll pick this up in the next video.